Hello and welcome back to another episode of Team Motors F1 Podcast, and I am your host, Jason Stam. And today we are going over a banger of a race, the Mexican Grand Prix in Mexico City. A race that was a pole sitter, win, and domination by Lando Norris. And in honor of Lando, let me crack this guy open. And we're going to take a swig of this Lando Norris Monster official drink. I've had this before. It's quite refreshing. If you have an opportunity to pick one up at your local grocery store, I absolutely recommend you give it a shot if you're a energy drink connoisseur like I am. If there's a new flavor, I'll always try to get it. And I've been waiting on this one for a while, and we finally got it in stock at HEB, my local grocery store, within the last couple of weeks. Leading up to the USGP. So with this Lando Norris win, how does that shake up the championship points? Well, we'll get into that later on in the episode. Let's see how the rest of the race shaked out for everyone. Oscar Piastri did not do himself any favors going into this race. While Lando got pole, Oscar qualified 7th. Kind of disappointing seeing his form just completely drop off over the last several races, and Lando's kind of starting to get some steam. Not as quite as steam as Max, but this race was pretty dominating for him. And when I mean dominating, it wasn't even close. He had over a 30-second gap between P1 and P2 to end the race, and I'm pretty sure that's him taking it nice and easy, just kind of coasting on the tires. Also, a bit of a shocker in qualifying. Ferraris got a 2 or 3 P2, P3 qualifying positions with Leclerc in P2, Lewis Hamilton in P3. It finally looked like Ferraris are going to get somewhere today. Maybe a double podium finish, a first podium for Lewis in a main race, because I know he won a sprint in China, but in a main race, his first podium with Ferrari. And Max Verstappen qualifying P5. I would say it's disappointing for Max too. He's in that championship hunt where he needs to gain a lot of points every single race to stay in that hunt. And Mexico is generally a good race for him. I think what I read last week that he is the single most successful driver in Mexico. I think he has like 4 or 5 wins. No one else is even close to him. So a P5 start, while it isn't the worst thing that could possibly happen, it's still not good. Mexico is known for pole sitters losing their lead on the first lap, but usually it's to someone who's right behind or right next to the pole sitter, second or third, and they're able just to get in front. They're going into turn 2. But P5, that's a little bit more chaos that could happen in front of them, and we saw some chaos going into turn 1 on lap 1. It was fun to watch. First and foremost, Lando got a perfect start, which is kind of uncommon for the McLaren driver, the British driver. Usually, he's the one that struggles getting off the lights out at the start of the race, and he usually falls behind and then has to play catch-up. But on this race, he got to turn 1 and no one else was even near him, not directly next to him, and then he just had daylight the rest of the race. If you ever seen the music video, Tough Guys Don't Look at the Explosions, that's kind of what happened to him. After turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, on the first lap, there's just utter chaos behind him, and he's just cruising. No one else was even near him. He was able to hold on to that lead for the entire race. Now we saw going into turn 1, 4 wide almost, going into turn 1. Both Ferraris, George Russell, Max Verstappen. We saw Max have to take a detour starting his own lawnmower service, cutting through into turn 2. And George Russell also fell off the track, not as bad as Max. When Max got back on the track, though, he was ahead of both Ferraris, and he smartly let both Ferraris get back in front of him to avoid any penalties. And this is going to come in crucial for later. And the only person who truly spun out in lap 1 was, of course, Lance Stroll. the best driver on the field. Oscar Piastri did not get one of the better starts. If anything, he probably maybe had the worst start. He fell back 4 positions from 7th to 11th. He just took the wrong line. He was on the outside part of going into turn 1, and several drivers took advantage of that and just scooted in right in front of him, causing him to fall behind very quickly. One person who made the most of the chaos was Ali Behrman, who jumped up 3 positions from 9th to 6th. And he kind of used the chaos to his advantage this race. There's a couple more things to come up from him later, a little bit more down the line. Liam Lawson ended up pitting at the end of lap 1, needing a new wing. Didn't really see it too much on the broadcast, but somehow during the thing there's a miscommunication with the marshals and sending the marshals out to go get debris when Liam Lawson was on the track coming. Either someone's not looking at GPS or someone just did not understand what race is. But there's cars on the track. You better make sure there's no cars coming when you're trying to pick up debris. Granted, it wasn't a yellow flag zone to go pick it up, but there was no one else around Liam, in front of him or behind him. All they had to do was let him pass, and then go grab the, I guess, parts of probably his wing from lap 1. He got dangerously close to these marshals, and that's not on him. This is the people that are running safety at these tracks. And I get you're getting a bunch of local people, I believe, to do these things. But maybe you want to invest having the same crew all the time. Someone who understand these regulations, that you can't just go out on the track anytime you want. These guys are, I believe, just hired guns. They get paid for the weekend. And then after that weekend, they're done. They don't do any more Formula One. They're not traveling to Las Vegas or Brazil coming up. They stay in Mexico. And when you have new people on the track all the time, and maybe they've done it for a couple years, and maybe they do it for other events as well, but you're not in the regular flow of things, and destruction can happen. Bad things can happen. Just reminded me of I believe it was Monaco 2023. I want to say 2023, when Hulkenberg waited to the last lap possible to pit, just trying to get strategy, just trying to get see if things will work out for him, and it didn't. And in order not to be disqualified for the race, he pitted on the last lap. And they started setting up the award ceremony, the Perc Ferme, before everyone pitted. He's flying down pit lane, and all these people were in the way, not having a clue what's going on. Someone needs to communicate that. Like, hey, we still got one guy to come on in. We shouldn't be setting up until it's over. It's over. But, what are you going to do? Lap 6, we've had some more action fighting for P3 between Lewis, George Russell, and Max. Max was in 4th, Lewis in 3rd, Russell in 6th. Going into turn 1 again, Max goes wide after turn 1, comes back. He's trying to give his spot back to Lewis, but George is trying to sneak in there and maybe take advantage of the situation. And I can't, fault him for that. It's not his fault that someone else went off the track in front of him. He's not going to slow down. But in the midst of the chaos, going in, I believe, turn 3, Lewis locks up and goes over to the grass and comes out, and he's about 2 seconds ahead of everyone now with the shortcut on his long mowing service. And with that, Ferrari people, his strategy, whoever's in his ear, should have told him to slow down. And he didn't. He kept that pace, kept that position, which resulted in a 10-second time penalty for Lewis Hamilton, which he would have to serve the next time he went into the pits. And what was going to be probably a good day for Ferrari, possible double podium finish, I don't know. It turned out to be a clunker for Lewis, and he ended up falling back onto the grid all the way to P8, where he finished the race. But I don't blame Lewis on this. This is the people at pits need to be speaking up, be reactive instead of, or be proactive instead of reactive. You know they're going to come down with this on leaving the track and gaining an advantage. You should have, hey, slow down, go back to whatever half a second gap you want to say, but to leave it at 2 seconds and keep them out of DRS, bad call for Ferrari, and it ultimately hurt your driver. But during all that scuffle, all of a sudden from P7, Ollie Behrman comes out of nowhere, puts his elbows out, and passes both George Russell and Max Verstappen to take 4th place. And even said on his interview that he might have pooped himself a little bit when he realized he was side to side with the 4-time world champion Max Verstappen and held his own. He didn't give Max an inch. He wasn't scared at all. And the impressive part about Behrman is he got up to this 4th place and he stayed up there the rest of the race with these guys. He ended up finishing in P4, which matches Roman Grosjean's highest position with Haas. And if I'm Ferrari, I'm smiling because he's your junior driver that you got on loan to Haas. And Lewis can't race forever, nor do you want to pay that price on Lewis Hamilton forever, especially if he's not, performing as he should. That goes along with that price tag. And you see a rookie who has had experience in your car, who's put points on the car. Honestly, he's done just as good a job, but probably as Lewis would have done this year. And not only doing that, he's doing it with a car that has no business being anywhere near that front in that Haas. I'm not bashing Haas. I know what kind of team they are. They are a business, and they're going to try to make money. They're not trying to win championships. And they're trying to help their sponsors out, or Gene Haas's whatever he does, the industrial thing. He's not going to have a payroll of 400 to 1,000 people. I think he's got a payroll of like 60 to 90 on a given day. But for Behrman to stay up there with the Leclercs, the Hamiltons, the Russells, the Verstappens, and hold his own, I wish he would have gotten a podium just because it kind of been a creme de la creme to give him that, I don't know, that nice little trophy, the shine to be up there on the podium with all these guys. But P4 and a Haas, man, that's you can't ask any more out of the rookie. And also during that little scuffle between Behrman, Max, and Russell was forced off the track a little bit, which caused Kimi Antonelli to get past Russell. Russell ended up falling back to 7th place. Couple other news and notes from the race. At this point, I think lap 26 or something like that, every single tire was being used on the track, which is good to see. I don't like when I see the entire lineup on the same 2 tires or on the same tire. I've seen that quite often. It was just hard and mediums. It felt like that during the middle of the year. Like that was the only 2 tires being used. And the softs were only used for qualifying, and that was it. But I enjoy it when teams are all on different strategies. Now, granted, for this race, this track, the softs kind of just held on forever, and it ended up being a good tire to use. I think Lando ended up getting like close to 30 laps on the soft tires before he switched to the mediums at the end of the race. And then Max did the opposite. He started on the mediums. Everyone else in front of him were on softs. He started on mediums. So at the end of the race, Max had the advantage in tire versus these other guys. Also, a lot of these guys did a 2 pit stop race. He only did a 1 stop. And more on that to come in just a second. And also, I want to give credit to the stewards for handling turn 1 on lap 1. Because they could have sat there and handed out fines or penalties to half the freaking track. They're all leaving the track or gaining advantage or whatnot. They let them kind of figure it out themselves and didn't mess with it too much. Now I know they end up getting Lewis Hamilton. That's Ferrari's fault. I don't even say that was Lewis's fault. That's Ferrari's fault for not telling him to slow down. Like I said, be proactive, not reactive. You know it's going to be the issue. Tell him to stop. Pump it a little bit. Just slow down. But it didn't. I also got to watch the broadcast, being in North America. Mexico City's in the same time zone as me, so that was nice to watch. I noticed during the actual broadcast on F1 TV, they stopped showing the wives and girlfriends for every cutscene possible. That might be because they didn't show up to Mexico City because of the safety issues. I don't know. Or they made a pivot and like, hey, Carlos Sainz called them out saying, you didn't show any of our overtakes, but you showed Charles Leclerc's girlfriend 10 times. And I agree with him on that. And then speaking of safety in Mexico City, I'm going to look at the government on that one. And I don't think it's just Mexico City. There's a couple other places. I think Brazil's another one where they're on high alert, extra security in order to make sure everyone is safe. If you want to continue getting these big events in your city or country, maybe you have to look at your high crime area and maybe do something about it, or else people aren't going to come back. Why would you? When you can go anywhere else, and well, you can go to the Middle East for one, get paid an exuberant amount of money, and you don't have to worry about all these security and safety issues versus having to have extra security to go from a hotel to the racetrack to make sure he doesn't get kidnapped and held for ransom. So I think Mexico and a couple of the other places, I think, like I said, Brazil is another one. They really need to look at their own country and fix some of these issues if they want to keep on getting events like this. During the race, Carlos Sainz ended up getting 2 5-second penalties for speeding in the pit lane. I know he said he was having some kind of a car issue where the accelerator was jumping while going down the pit, which was causing his speeding issues. What started out as a possible good weekend for him, he qualified P7. Now, he did earn a 5-second grid penalty from last week's antics of bashing into Kimi Antonelli. But still, he had the pace to probably climb up the field. And it just didn't work out for him. 2 5-second penalties. And it ended with his day with a DNF, which I'm going to go over in a little bit. Probably a wasted weekend for Carlos Sainz. And he'll be kicking himself over this one. Lap 35, Lando Norris came into pit. He had a 28-second lead at that point. So he was able to hold on his lead 100% of the time. Led every single lap. And it was a perfect day for him. A nice, lovely Sunday drive. Then a few laps later, Georgie Rush is complaining over the radio once again. I want to like George Russell. But he's just one of those guys that is always complaining on the radio, and that's just complaining. Just seems like he's whining. The team radio's giving him direction to cool down his brakes. He's crying that there's someone behind him, and he needs to use his brakes. I'm like, well, we need something at the end of the race too. Like, just say okay and move on, Georgie Russ. And then he's crying about trying to get a shot at Behrman with Kimi Antonelli in front of him. And how does a McLaren on his butt? And this went on for several races, or several laps, I should say. Finally, Oscar Piastri's right on George Russell's tail, and then Mercedes makes the call. Oh yeah, go ahead and switch. Which Kimi Antonelli has to manage this and not lose 2 positions. So essentially, going from turn 1 into turn 2, pulls off to the side and just directly cuts off Piastri going into turn 2. In order to save his position. And then from there, George Russell does absolutely nothing. He loses ground on Behrman, doesn't gain him. All that crying about he's got more pace, he's got more tires on Antonelli, for him just to lose positions. That's one of those things where Toto is, man, just get me Max. I'm tired of this. The guy just cries all the time. Let some other team deal with this. And I understand it. I've been a manager of employees before, and while I've had some great employees, I've had employees like George Russell that just complains all the time, and it just gets to a point where, yeah, you're good, man, but I don't want to deal with this anymore. It's just too much. And then during all this, Max Verstappen comes in for his one and only pit. He falls from P2 down to P8, and had a 17-second gap between P8, P2, to Charles Leclerc. And like I said before, While Leclerc started on the softs and ended on the mediums, Max did the opposite and started on mediums, and now he's on the soft tires, which was going to give him quite an advantage on lap time if he was able to take care of them. We get to 10 laps to go, and it's on. Max is now 5.5 seconds left. 5.5 seconds between him and Leclerc in P3, P2. 5 laps to go. He's 2.5 seconds left behind him. 2.5 seconds behind Leclerc. We get down to the second to last lap, and we're about to hit the straightaway, and it looks like Max is going to get P2. And all of a sudden, here comes his yellow flag, and Carlos Sainz spun out in the stadium section somewhere. Now, he was trying to get his car behind the barriers, but after a lap of sitting on double yellow flags in that section, they put it at a virtual safety car at the worst possible time for Max Verstappen, who was trying to get P2. I mean, he was hot on his tail, on Leclerc's tail. I think he was less than a half a second, which, trending for the rest of from the last, few laps, he was probably going to catch Leclerc going into turn 1 on the last lap to get P2. But the virtual safety car came out as they were pretty much going through the stadium area. And while the virtual safety car did end on the last lap, it ended at a point where there was no passing zones for him. And I think he kind of lost the momentum. So Charles Leclerc ended up with a P2 podium finish. Max Verstappen a P4 finish. So let's give a rundown of the finishes. Like I said, Lando Norris finished first, 30 seconds between him and Leclerc in P2. Leclerc P2, Max P3, Ollie Behrman. Man, I can't say enough about the kid. His future looks pretty good. Hopefully Ferrari pulls the trigger on him sooner rather than later. And he doesn't sit in Haas for more than another year or two. P5, after having a horrible start and bad qualifying, Oscar Piastri finished P5. Kimi Antonelli, P6. George Russell, P7. So they did swap their cars back at the end of the race after George complained about it, getting a position ahead of him. Lewis, P8. And then the other Haas, Esteban Ocon, P9. Good day for him after starting 11th. Maybe another good driving day for another driver. Gabriel Bortoleto, which started P16, got the last point of the day. Ended up in P10. Yuki, who started in P10, finished P11. The nail is in the coffin for Yuki Tsunoda. And I'm wondering if they have already lowered it down and started putting on the dirt. Because when your teammate is finishing first and second, and you half and half can finish in the points, man, you're not doing yourself any justice to get yourself a job for next season. And like I said before, I don't think he's going to go to any other team. Once he's done at Red Bull, he's done in Formula One. And hopefully he's able to find some traction somewhere else. Maybe WEC, maybe IndyCar, maybe something in Japan. But I think his Formula One career is over, and wish him the best of luck. Alexander Albon finished P12 after starting P17. Isaac Hadjar had a bit of a disappointing day. He qualified P8, and then finished his day in P13. Lance going for a Stroll. After spinning out in lap 1, I mean, he still had a halfway decent day. He started P19. He ended his day at P14. Beat Alonso once again. And then the last two classified finishers are, of course, the Alpines. Gasly P18 and Colapinto P20. And, man, the Alpines just look bad, man. They are so bad. I'm sorry. They just given up. They're not even trying at this point. It's almost penciled in now that they're going to finish. Unless something crazy happens where there's a wreck and someone falls off, but they're going to finish last the last few races. And then, of course, we had Carlos Sainz with the DNF finish. on lap 70, 67. Fernando Alonso, third straight DNF finish here at Mexico. I know he was not happy. Nico Hulkenberg, DNF finish from lap 25. And then, of course, Liam Lawson, who made it approximately 5 laps, I think, before his DNF day. Now, before we go over our driver of the day, team of the day, were you even there award, a little bit of news I think I forgot to go over last week was Colton Herta has officially signed for an F2 seat next year, and he'll be driving the high-tech car. I look forward to watching F2 next year just because of Colton Herta. And hopefully this brings a little bit more attention to F2 to get a couple more eyeballs on it for these teams. It's not just for Colton Herta to see, but you can see all your other drivers. I like going to minor league baseball games. You never know who you're going to see there. You never know who's going to turn out to be a superstar, and you get a chance to see them before they're just a star or a no star. But the pressure's on him now to perform. I think anything short of a couple of race victories in F2 next year would be considered a disappointment. Definitely to get his super license as fast as he possibly can so that he can get in some FP1 practices in the Cadillac next year. But I look forward to watching F2 next year, and I hope with the new Apple TV deal, maybe they're smart enough to have a camera crew go over the year of Colton Herta and what he's trying to accomplish, being an American and trying to break through to F1, but IndyCar just doesn't get any respect. So he decided to put himself in F2 with a bunch of 17, 18-year-olds. And he's the elder statesman there. And you could see maybe race victories or meetings with Cadillac about future plans. If I'm Apple TV, that's the kind of stuff you need to produce to get more people signed on to your subscription service. And then maybe they can do it every year. Not necessarily Colton Herta, not necessarily American driver, but you could pick one team and just follow them throughout the season, the highs and lows. And that would be a cool show to watch. Now with this Lando Norris race victory and the disappointment today of Oscar Piastri, ladies and gentlemen, we have a new points leader. By a whopping 1 point, Lando Norris is now your championship point leader, followed by Oscar Piastri, who's fallen off of a lot of form the last few weeks. Now, I went over this last week about how a lot of their marketing stuff for Coda this 2 weeks back had a lot of Lando Norris stuff on there and not necessarily Oscar Piastri. And I almost wanted to say that they're doing something to Oscar's car to make it not go as fast, to make sure Lando is the one that wins the championship. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just my assumptions, that they're doing something because they really want Lando to be the one marketing behind it to win the championship. And I think Oscar's maybe days were still ahead of him. This might be Lando's one shot only to win a championship. But, yeah, Oscar's 1 point away, so it's still a tight race. And then Max Verstappen, while he gained on Piastri, he lost a little bit of ground to Lando Norris. He's only 36 points behind. And we still have 4 races left, which include 2 sprints that are in Brazil and Qatar. Our next race is in Brazil in 2 weeks. Now, time for our driver of the day. It could go to, I think there's 2 drivers you can give it to, and that's Ollie Behrman and Lando Norris. It's not Lando's fault that he just dominated the race. 32nd, he led every single lap. He got around turn 1 and nothing else was even in front of him the rest of the race. Or nothing was even behind him, really. And so my driver today does have to go to Lando Norris for just having a perfect race. The Hello, Were You Even There award, going to have to give it to Alpine. Now, them being the last two finishers in the race isn't shocking. What is shocking is between 14th of Lance Stroll and 15th of Pierre Gasly, there was 37 seconds between the two. They're not even close to the rest of the pack. And then Colapinto was a third of a second behind, or 0.296, I think it said, behind Gasly. So the Alpines are the same exact speed. It's just so disappointing to see a team just operate that badly. Especially when you got a guy like Gasly, who is a race winner. Man, they just fallen off of form. They have checked out, and they are ready for 2026, and hopefully that crisp new Mercedes engine operates just a little bit better than that Renault Alpine engine for them. Team of the day has to go to Haas. Double points finish for them. Behrman finishing in P4 and was able to actually keep him up there in P4 for pretty much the entire race. That's good strategy, good management, and then Ocon finishing in P9. So they didn't just completely forget about Esteban Ocon. They let him manage his race as well. So Haas gets the team of the day. This wraps up this episode of Team Motors F1 podcast. Once again, my name's Jason Stam. If you have any questions, comments, something you want me to focus a little bit more on, feel free to shoot me an email. Usually it's at the bottom of all the description. It's nosadsports.com. It's nosadsports@gmail.com. Until then, I'll see you in about 2 weeks for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Thank you.